Hello, everybody. My name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur show. And my audience knows we had this little thing we started doing about 6 months ago where we said we need to bring some new people into um, our fold and bring some new interesting people to our listeners. And there was one guy who had 4 pages. I'm telling you, 4 pages of what people said about him. And you guys got to meet him right after this. Hello again, my name is Christian, and I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur show. And you guys gonna love today's guest. There was 2 things which I absolutely loved about him. Number one, my team had 4 pages of notes of him. You usually have a page and a half. He had 4, and you guys can ask us later in the comments below why he had 4, and I'm very happy to share this with you. But there was 2 things we absolutely loved about him is on the whole legal strategy, how he talks about it and how he brings you into the fold. When he talks about it, take the word legal out and put your profession in front of it because it's very universal. And then I also love about when he talks about profit margins, and we all are in this to make money. Again, when he talks about it, put your name in front of it or in the end of it, and you guys get a ton out of today's conversation. With that, I want to welcome Jason Kho. Thanks for coming to the Disruptive Chef show. We're excited to have you.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
So before we get started, just tell our audience where you're calling in from, and then just tell us how did this whole thing start? You're a good-looking guy. You could do so many different things. Why food service? So talk to us. How did this start?
I'm based out of Los Angeles, California, although I work nationwide in regards to alcohol licenses. I am turning 38 this year. I can't believe it. I started back when I was 14 years old as an intern. And essentially every summer from 14 years old up until I graduated college, I worked for a liquor license company. And after college, I decided in helping small businesses, that really was the crux of it all. I'm first generation US. My parents came from Korea. They owned a flower shop. And when I was working as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, and so on, I noticed that a lot of people in the restaurant industry were mom and pops, was what I call them. They're family-owned businesses or partnership proprietor businesses. And it really, I found a calling, so to speak, to want to help these businesses out, just like I saw my parents, working for every penny that they ever earned. And I figured if I can be an assistance or a help in expediting getting these licenses for these mom and pop businesses, that would then help them start their revenues faster, start their business faster, and hopefully find a road to success and reaching that American dream. So that's really where all that started and where my passion come from. And about 10, 15 years ago, I decided to start my own consulting firm for alcohol licenses. And my company is AAA Liquor License Consulting, and here today, and can't wait to help educate those listeners that are listening to this podcast in regards to maybe what they need in regard to an alcohol license. So.
And I love that, Jason, and I absolutely love because and our listeners, when they hear you speak later, every time you respond to a comment or anything, you kind of bring in your whole philosophy on family life and being here. So for me, our listeners know that's really super important. I also have international adopted children out of China. So for me, all of that is really important. But there's a few things you talk about all the time. That is, you need to be passionate about what you do. You need to find whatever you want to call it, the big calling for you. But one of yours was you didn't want people to struggle. You wanted people to get an easier way to get the liquor license or whatever it was. And that you wanted to provide them with the tools they need to be successful. And if you are an operator and you need to get your liquor license, you know exactly there's 2 ways of doing it. You could do it on your own. Takes a long time, or you partner with somebody like Jason who can help you kind of shorten the learning curve, because the licensing thing changes all the time, and it changes literally from state to state, and it's a very complicated process. So talk to us a little bit. First off, how did that philosophy come to you that you want to help out the little guys? And then second of all, is a kind of a twofold question. The second question is, so now where you want to help him out, why did you choose liquor license?
Yeah, the first question is the support of these small businesses was important to me because I really believe that small businesses run the economy, in particular in America.
Mhm.
And, I see that these small businesses directly affect the families that are operating them. It's what they do in a Monday sale of food and alcohol may help them put a down payment on a home, or they're saving to further themselves in life outside of the business world. And that really meant something for me. I think that it's important for small business owners to take pride in what it is that they're doing. And if it's something that I can help them get to faster, that was really the premise of why I'm doing what I'm doing. I fell into liquor licenses just by chance. I was just kind of
Mhm.
running around as a wild 13-year-old and, was selling whatever I could. You get in high school, they gave you the cookie dough sale, and the contest of who can sell the most cookie dough or cookies door to door. And for whatever reason, my competitive juices got me going on that. And, when I fell into liquor licenses, I'm just applying the same competitiveness to that particular product versus, door-to-door sales, real estate, whatever you want to call it. It really is
Mhm.
just sales at the end of the day. Where my expertise comes in is experience and understanding the nuances of different regulations through the state, municipality, federally. It could be any of those items. And so that's how I fell into the liquor license world. But whether it's a liquor license, whether it's real estate, whether it's business to business, my goal has always been to help the small guys, and in return of helping the small guys, if I do a job, I'm confident the big guys will come to me too, from a monetary revenue standpoint. But really, I want to see, David succeed if we're going to use the David and Goliath example. You know what I mean? There's
Mhm.
enough big ones have equity and things of that nature. But watching a mom and pop be able to grow from one restaurant to two restaurants to three restaurants to 4, 5, 6, I love seeing that. And I also, more
Yeah.
importantly, love seeing the restaurants that I opened maybe 20 years ago that are still in business to this day, and now they're like a reputable and like they're a vital part of their community that they're opening up in. And
Mhm.
I take great pride in being like, oh, I helped that guy get his liquor license. So.
I love that, and you talk a lot about choosing the right license for your food concept. So that was the first thing. And for me, you constantly talk about that you always looked out for the underdog, and that some of your greatest successes was or seeing people succeed and have multiple restaurants. So talk to us. Where does this whole thing come in on choosing the right license? First of all, because people think that's just one license. Okay, so I think, and maybe there's a twofold questions. What is the biggest misconceptions around that license? So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there's really two types of licenses, and this is kind of nationwide. For restaurants in particular, you have a beer and wine only restaurant where it's exactly what it
Mhm.
sounds like. If the chef has a beer and wine only license, I go in there, I can have wine, beer, sake, soju, things of that nature, right? Then you have a full liquor license, which is a full line of alcohol. So I can go in there, get a margarita, I can get a martini, I can get a glass of wine, pint of beer. And depending on the state, city that you're in, will dictate kind of what the cost of that license. Some states are quota states, meaning that you have to buy one on the open market as far as full liquor goes. Some states, you can go directly to the liquor board and get these licenses. I think a big confusion for most chefs or most business owners in regards to an alcohol license is, I get this question a lot, is does full liquor also include beer and wine? And the answer is
Yes.
yes. So,
Mhm.
if you decide to go full liquor, don't just think you can only sell tequila, vodka, and gin. You also have the ability to sell beer and wine, under that umbrella of a license. I think the big difference for a operator as to why they go a certain route is cost. Beer and wine only is normally are always going to be cheaper than a full liquor license. And I'll give you an example, like in Los Angeles, where I'm based out of. If you go for a full liquor license for a restaurant in Los Angeles County right now, you're probably looking to spend anywhere between $100,000 to $120,000 for a liquor license. Whereas if you decide to go beer and wine only, you can get that directly from the alcohol beverage control in California, and you're going to spend, just under $2,000 for that type of license. So there's a significant difference, in that example with Los Angeles County. So I always try and steer my clientele. I ask them, well, what kind of business are you operating in regards to a restaurant? Some chefs, they just want to do a cafe. They want to do small bites, small plates, where maybe their menu and program doesn't really require a cocktail program. Okay, great. Then you don't need to spend the 6 years in Los Angeles, for example, to go do that. For another example, is I have a client that wanted to open up a Mexican restaurant, right? And I only need beer and wine. I go, are you sure? Because if there's other Mexican restaurants surrounding you or in your city and they have full liquor, well, if you don't sell margaritas, you're going to get people walking out of your restaurant. So depending on the concept of the chef, kind of drives whether or not you should spend the money to go get a beer and wine versus a full liquor, one of those things. So that's kind of what I help guide chefs and restaurateurs and things of that nature to go ahead and do. Of course, when a chef comes in with a partner that's an investor, the partner is always like, well, we need full liquor. And that's now where we get the kind of in the music industry, the artist versus the producer argument now. The producer says, play the hits. The artist says, well, this is the music I want to play. So same world with the chef and investor. Chef wants to make a particular style of food, and the investors say, no, we want steak and steak frites. We want steak and potatoes. Those are going to sell. So dependent, and I always lean towards the chef, because what you serve food-wise really kind of dictates what kind of alcohol you need to be serving or what kind of wines you should be serving. And I know chefs really take pride in that, because those alcohols, whether it be beer and wine only or full liquor, really enhance the flavors of what it is that the chef is serving. So those are really important things. When I qualify a client or a potential client as to what kind of license they need, I ask those type of questions.
I love that. So now let's start. If I'm brand new in this, I want to open up a restaurant. What is the first thing I should do? And what would be the first thing you recommend I do for licensing?
Great question. The first thing I always ask someone is, Sure. The first thing I always ask someone is, do you have a location? Right? Great, you want to open up a restaurant. Great, you want to do all these things. You may even have your menu created, but if you have no location, then you have no restaurant. So my first question is, do you have a premise? If that answer is yes, then I say, okay, well, do you have a lease signed on that premise? And if that answer is yes, then we go into zoning. And now it's like, okay, the city that you're located, are they allowing you to have a license at this location? Oh, I don't know. Then I go help you find that out. If the zoning says yes, you're good to have a license here, then now we start to go towards the acquisition of a liquor license, whether it be beer and wine or full liquor. But I always say to anyone, if you don't have a location that you can see yourself running a successful operation at, then there is no need to talk about a liquor license at this point in time. So it's always about a location. And go ahead.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. And when people follow, you kind of bring it back. And for you, it almost comes natural to say, hey, my experiences, you should do this and this and this. But you're a liquor license guy. Why would you even help me with something like this? Hey, that's what I love about you, because you look out if you go being successful. This is number one. And then you always talk about peace. And I want to have a little conversation with you quite often that people don't understand permits. So can you about that?
Yeah, as far as the zoning and the departments go and everything like that, I think it's important as your consultant, or even I call myself your partner at the end of the day, because I'm on with you on what we call this little wild liquor license ride from start to finish, right? Before you even acquire it to when you do get it. And holding an alcohol license, there's liability associated to that. So it's imperative and important to me that I guide my clientele down the appropriate path. So that way the I's are dotted appropriately and the T's are crossed appropriately. And I don't find success in what I do for you as a client if I don't consult you appropriately. So if I advise you to go do things that I know are not legal or are not going to be appropriate to the government, I would be hindering your business, which again, from the start of this show, I'm all about building your business. So going through zoning and finding out whether you can have a license at that location, or going through my little checklist of questions with a clientele, all of that is courtesy because I want to ensure that I set myself up for success in doing your liquor license acquisition. And so if I don't ask these questions and you just pay me and I go to the state and file everything and say, oh, wait, you don't have a location? Sorry, you don't get a license. That would not be very ethical from my standpoint. And for me, I need to be able to look at myself in the mirror and go to sleep at night. And that's really what I live and breathe off of. I was raised how I feel a very appropriate way by my parents. I raised well. And so it's important that I carry on that ethics, that I was taught and raised with.
I love that. When you talk about the conditional use permits, and you talk a lot about that chefs are sometimes blindsided by them. Why is that?
Chefs are so focused on the product that they want to put out. Chefs have a million things going on outside of the liquor license. Employees, staffing of cooks alone is creating a menu. How you want your hostess stands to look or your host stand to look. There's just so many little details that go on in the chef's mind that checking the city planning department to see if you can have an alcohol license there is something you just kind of miss as a chef because you got a million things going on. Or the misconception is for a lot of chefs is, well, there was a license here before, so I should have no problem. Well, you may though, because if the permit has expired from the previous operator, then you're going to have to get a new one as far as a conditional use permit goes to be able to put a license there. So a lot of times people, not even just chefs, operators are like, well, there was a license here before, so I should be good. And that's where my due diligence comes in and says, oh, there was one here, but it expired 5 years ago. Oh, well, the broker or this person never told me that, or the seller never told me that. Well, of course, because they're interested to liquidate, not to help you out as the business person. So that's where then I come in to be your partner in helping you with this, And I'm sure you laugh because you probably love doing that yourself.
There's a story behind it, and I need to tell you some other day because that's exactly what we went through. We bought our first restaurant. Are we good to go? We got audited. I was like, what do you mean we don't have a liquor license? We bought it. The guy said, yeah, but you never applied for one. It's like, oh, okay, lessons learned. So I'm sure you have a ton of story because you sat through a ton of hearings and planning committees and everything else. So what is a battle story that stuck with you?
Oh, good. Well, they're all kind of similar in the sense of how things get approved. And from when you first start with this filing at the city, right? And that in itself is, not to talk poorly about any government. Some municipalities are better than others, but as we all know, it's difficult to get through the red tape with government paperwork. And so when filing a permit, you first got to go through the city and somehow some cities these days, believe it or not, still deal with paper. So there's no electronic filing, right? And I'm using the example of LA City in this case. You got to physically go in with a stack of paper like this big, and they go through each page, right? So think about it from a chef's point of view. Like you have time to sit in a 2-hour meeting with the planning department to go over, these things that are foreign to you. No. So then you get a guy like me, I go in, I deal with that. Really, the hardest part is dealing with the neighborhood councils. So every city you go in is going to have a neighborhood council that's associated to that particular area. And you got to get their blessings. And you got to show up, and I got to tell you, I got 4 CUPs I'm currently doing. I got 4 neighborhood councils I got to go to. And I got to explain to these people and as to why it is that they should allow for a license here and how it's not going to be a hindrance. And you're sitting through these meetings, by the way, and they're about 7 hours long, and for the first 6 hours, they're talking about how to improve the basketball courts or why we need new nets at the gym and things of that nature. Very civil things. Whereas I'm just sitting there waiting for my little agenda item to come up so I can explain how Joe's restaurant's going to be a fantastic addition to the community. I can tell you the liquor stores tend to be a little bit more difficult to get the blessings from the neighborhood council because all that is offsite. People walk in, they buy tequila, and they walk out. Communities tend to be a little bit more friendly with restaurants because they're all ages. I recently did a private club. That one was a little bit more difficult to get through because people want to know, well, what the hell's happening in a private club and how do we become members? So fortunately, I was able to explain to the neighborhood as to why this private club is set up. It's kind of like a Soho house, so to speak, a workplace with entertainment and things of that nature. But all the war stories I have are very similar. It's just a matter of having to convince neighborhood councils as to why people are going to, these operators are going to be a benefit. And a lot of times, the operators need to show up for these things because they don't want to talk to Jason Kho, the liquor license consultant. They want to talk to Joe, the operator. As you're here daily, Joe. What are you doing to make sure that our community is safe? How are you preventing the homeless from loitering? How are you going to prevent drunk driving? All of these things, which of course I'm sitting in the background whispering in Joe's ear, say this, say that, do this. It's kind of like I draft up the script for the operator to say, hey, here are the questions we're going to get. When they don't want to talk to me anymore, they're going to want to talk to you. Get ready, So part of my experience with a client as well is coaching them on what we're going to have to say and what we're going to have to do. But as far as the war story goes, there really isn't any crazy ones, thankfully, because that means I'm doing a good job in getting these approved. If something gets denied and then I got to go to an appeal process and get in with the guy and do all these things, that to me is a real war story. Unfortunately for me, I haven't had to go down that route because I've been able to get approved on the front levels. You know what I mean? So I hope anyone that's listened to this hasn't had to go through a war story. And if you have, and you reach out to me, and I can maybe find you a different avenue than going down the one that you went to begin with.
So I can promise you there's probably 20, 30,000 of them listening. They went through this. They said, I didn't know Jason exists. I was sitting there. They asked me a question. I gave him an honest answer. They didn't like it. They didn't like it.
I would probably say in a month, if I get 200 calls in a month, I would say at least 20% of them say to me, well, I wish I would have known you 6 months ago. I wish I would have found you a year ago. I get it all the time. And you know what I say? Well, at least you found me. Because a lot of these people in our industry, they're lifers. You know what I mean? Even if one fails, they want to go back again and do another one. They're lifers in the industry. And so it's like, it doesn't matter if you messed up the first time around. You found me now, and we'll get you done the right way the second time around, because that's when it's going to end and you'll flourish.
And
but yeah, I get all of that.
And to our listeners, I could, to our listeners, I didn't know Jason exists. Full transparency, because if he would exist, I would have called him all the time. Because the things he talks about, and when by the way, he makes it sound so easy, but when he talks about it, he makes so much sense. I love that he coaches the client, say this, don't say that. Don't get excited about things, because we are easy to get excited. So for me, if you on the market for opening a restaurant, or if you want to scale on that's my next question for you, because there's something also I learned. When you scale, let's say you go from 2 to 3 locations, or from 1 to 4 locations, what changes on a license? Because for me, I always thought this, one license, one name, I just need one license. So talk to our listeners a little bit. What changes when you go from 1 to multiple locations?
Yeah, so there's a myriad of different changes that actually take place, and there's strategy involved as far as money and things of that nature. And I'll give you a couple examples. So, if you have 4 locations, you need 4 licenses. Some restaurateurs or operators decide that they want to keep all their licenses under the same entity. So we'll just call it, Private Chef Inc. Let's just use that as a hypothetical. Private Chef Inc. owns 4 licenses, all under the same ownership, corporate officers, et cetera, which is fine today. There's no consequence to doing that. Okay. The other option you have is, if you have 4 locations, you can put them under 4 different corporations, 4 different LLCs, 2 corporations, or 2 LLCs, whatever it is that you decide to do. The filing is all going to be the same anyways, right? And the reason why people will do the latter is because they don't want restaurant 1 to affect restaurant 4. Because if we do the former, where we put them all under one entity, and restaurant 1 doesn't do as bad as taking a loss, when you do your returns and everything like that, that's going to affect the overall corporation that owns 4 licenses. So restaurant 1 is going to affect restaurant 4 in that case, right? And I don't want to talk doom and gloom, but there is a reality that may happen, right? We're operating businesses, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a retail store, whether it's a movie store, the opportunity for failure is always there, unfortunately, right? And so there is no right or wrong way to do it. It's operator's choice, but most multiple licensees will put each restaurant or each license under a different entity to protect the individual restaurants from affecting one another. So again, though, whether we file Joe Schmo Inc. 4 times in a row, that's fine. It's all going to be the same application process versus Joe Schmo Inc. 1, Joe Schmo Inc. 2, Joe Schmo Inc. 3. Again, the application process is all going to be the same.
Mhm.
It more has a ramification on your revenue tax and income and things of that nature.
And also, you said something a lot of people don't realize it. I was in that position. The very first, so we had 3 restaurants at the time, and we did all the same. It worked with the first one. We do the same. We sold the first restaurant. The guy which bought it from us came back to us and said, "Hey, no, hold on. I own the liquor license because I bought the license because we were all on the one license." You know,
Right.
it took some massaging. Thank God we were able to get out of it, but it gives you difficulty to kind of get it done, and it's delays, denials, and compliance issues. So for me, if there is one thing, and I encourage anybody, you want to get a license, have a conversation with Jason. Not only is he going to help you to right size it, he will give you really good advice. Because for me, as I started listening to you, I was like, oh man, I wish I would have known Jason, 20 years ago as I opened up my first restaurant. And then full transparency, I went and I said, oh, California is so lucky to have Jason. That's 2, 3 guys, but none of them. And I encourage you to go to Jason because none of them talks about helping the guys out the way you do. None of them talks about, hey, I help you with order licensing. I help you with the denials. I help you with the setbacks. And that's, for me, is one of the reasons I think you are so successful. And I think you need to become national and not just, California. How dare you? Because I think the what you bring to the table, people think it's so easy, but it's not. And if you can get it in 1 meeting versus 5 meetings, for me, that's the way. So if our listeners are on the verge of buying a restaurant or doing something, they need to reach out to you. So I know I looking at the clock.
Yeah, just to clarify, I am nationwide.
Okay.
Yeah, just to clarify, I am nationwide. So even though I'm based out of California, I handle them everywhere. You know what I mean? I've just handled 2 transactions in New York. I just had 4 in Florida. I had another 5 in Texas. I got a couple going on in Arizona. So, liquor licenses are kind of across the board. It's just maybe the form looks different in a different state or a different city, but all of it is is the same language, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm able to help out in that regard. But yeah, a lot of times, going back to your point about, transferring a license, just because you gave the seller money doesn't mean the liquor license is yours, people. You still have to go through this government process of changing it to have your name or entity on the license. So that's another thing where I help people. It's like, I tell them, don't give anyone money up front unless, we have something to protect this whole thing, that there's a contract, that there's an escrow agreement. Unfortunately, people will do deals where they just say, okay, I'll just pay you money, I buy it, and I move on with my life. But as you kind of went through yourself, you start operating something, the government knocks on your door and says, well, this license doesn't have your name on it. And now all of a sudden they're going to suspend your business. And you're working backwards and already spent the money. So my job for you and what I do is on the upfront, make sure, again, you're dotting those I's, crossing those T's, putting the commas where you need to, putting the periods where you need to ensure that what you're writing is going to be accurate, so to speak.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And to our listeners, I honestly say you guys need to talk to Jason. When you want to scale, or if you have restaurant, you need to talk to somebody. Because for me, every time I hear you speak and when I listen to you, it makes so much sense. So I encourage our listeners, not just walk to the internet, run to the internet, okay, and reach out to Jason. So Jason, if people want to learn more about you, where can they learn more about you? How can they get a hold of you? Can you share this with us?
Yeah, perfect. If you want to give me a call, please feel free to. I'm always available. I got a 24-hour callback rule. You can reach me at 323-510-7831. Okay. You can also email me at Jason, Jason, at aaliquorlicenses.com. You can also visit the website, www.aaliquorlicenses.com. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. It's the at AAA Liquor Licenses, or you can head over to the YouTube channel, which is AAA Liquor License Consulting. The YouTube and Instagram have a bunch of informational videos on there. So if you're just looking kind of to find some stuff to maybe help answer questions without having to call me or things like that, there's stuff on there. I think your best source of information is just giving me a ring direct. I'll be happy to help you and educate you on what your questions are.
Awesome.
Alcohol license.
We really appreciate you. And to all listeners, go back a few minutes. And by the way, if you couldn't write this thing down, you will have all of Jason's information in the show notes. So with that, Jason, before we go, we wanted to see if you up for playing something called Rapid Fire Question Food Service Edition. But before we play that, if somebody wants to open up a restaurant, what is the first piece of advice you have for somebody? What do they need to do? 1, 2, or 3. Give us a little bit of an advice of what they need to be careful of or what they should do.
Perfect. So first thing is, and I said this earlier in the episode, is location. Make sure you find a location that you are genuinely happy with. A lot of people, because they're desperate to want to open up a restaurant, they will just pick any location that they get a lease on without thinking about whether foot traffic is going to actually walk in through those doors. That would be item number 1. Item number 2, I would say concept. If your concept is like everyone else's in your area, I don't know if you're going to get people walking through that door. So in other words, you want to stand out. What are you bringing to that area that you want to open up and that's going to be different than everyone else's? And it could be as simple as your steak might be better than everyone else's, or you're sourcing your meat from from a better producer than most. Mm-hmm. It could be something as simple as that. Number 3, I would say patience. You're going to have patience, because restaurants, as you know, they take time to cultivate, the marketing, the outreach, all that kind of stuff. Be patient. Those are the 3 key things that I would advise on people. You know what I mean? Because, and I don't say money really, because money comes and goes. You know what I mean? You could have $1 billion, you could have $500 million in the account, and if you don't spend it properly, that all goes, and you have no restaurant. So I don't really look at it from the money side of things. I look at it from, again, location, concept, and patience.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And to our listeners, if you go back the 2 minutes what he just spoke and take out his profession, you put in your profession, the advice is universal. And it doesn't matter if you're in a restaurant, open up a car, good universal advice. So with that, playing Rapid Fire Question Food Service Edition. And what we have here for you is the latest, latest and greatest question. My team made it extremely hard for you because you're licensing guy. Okay. So the way it works is I will say, hey, Jason, give me a number. Then you give me a number between 1 and 25. I read out the question and we want to answer you as quick as you can. Yes or no, and why. Are you up for playing Rapid Fire Question Food Service Edition? Okay. So with that, Jason, remember, this is your reputation. Okay. Give me a number between 1 and 25.
Let's go with my favorite number, number 8.
I'm sorry, you said 3?
No, number 8. Let's go. My favorite number is number 8. So let's go with that one.
Oh, 8. 8 is always oldie but goodie. Should coffee be used to marinate a steak? Yes or no, and why?
Yes, with the caveat that it depends what kind of roast and the quality of the coffee and the cut of steak. But I would say yes. And why? Because it adds a particular sweetness to it that you can't necessarily get from other you don't get the same from brown sugar, so to speak, on a steak. So I actually am a coffee rub type of guy on a steak.
Oh, love that. And having a little brandy with that. I know where you're going with that. I know exactly where you're going with that. Okay, give me another number between 1 and 25.
Let's go between 21.
21. Ooh. Should every menu have a mystery dish option? Yes or no, and why?
Yes, I actually love that. I think they should. I always usually order the specials on the menu. So if there's a mystery dish, I'm all in on it because that dish is probably something chef is taking a little bit more consideration into making than the hits, so to speak, on the menu.
Yeah, it could be the other way, but yeah, I see where you're going with that.
I guess I'm
Okay,
more of
give
an
me number
adventurous eater
between
than
one
maybe
and
some of the listeners.
give me number between 1 and 25.
Let's go number 10.
10. Should all foods be served with a surprised ingredient just to have fun? Yes or no, and why?
Oh no, no surprise ingredients for me. Why? Why if one's allergic to said ingredient, then that's a problem, right? Or two, I don't know if I could roll. I just can't get on that one. I don't know. For me, it's a little weird. The mystery one's fine because it's telling you, hey, this is the whole mystery. The
Oh my
whole dish is mystery. But the one ingredient, I don't know.
I I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. Some of the chef friends I met, no surprise ingredients. Okay, none. Okay, give
Yes.
me number between 1 and 25.
Let's go 18.
18. Dessert before you eat dinner and call it reverse dining. Yes or no?
No. Why? I'm a traditionalist. Appetizer, main course, dessert.
Thank you. Because if you're not, mom didn't teach you, right? Okay, last question between 1 and 25.
Let's go
Okay,
number one.
last number. Give me number one. Oh, can bacon literally make everything taste better, including ice cream? Yes or no? And why?
Personally, no. The listeners might not agree with me on this one, but I'm not a big putting savory and sweet together. So I think like bacon on a glazed donut, not my get down. Bacon and ice cream, not my get down. Bacon should be either on a baked potato fully loaded or with eggs and toast.
I'm not shooting back. Bring bacon back. But with that, I want to say
That's why I said
thanks
the
for
listeners
playing.
might hate me on this one.
Thanks for playing rapid fire question
Right.
food service edition. It was awesome. So, Jason, first off, I absolutely love the way you think about food and how you think about helping people in this industry, which is absolutely admirable. Number one. The second thing is the person I started following and checking out is the person you are all the time. And that's what we absolutely love about you. And number three is not once in all of the responses. Yeah, by the way, we found Jason on LinkedIn. Um, we never found he never said, "Hey, this is not my job." And there was something I was like, "Why would Jason answer that?" And for me, it kind of made me kind of humbled in this thing because I never met anybody like you who works with something totally different, and it's really easy to say, "I'm not." That's not my thing, and you will go out of your way to help people. And for me, there's no greater gift than doing that. And that's something I absolutely love about you. So thank you, Jason, for being here today. Thanks for the gift of your time. But before we go, looking back, the 20 something years you've been around, what is one word of wisdom you have for anybody or somebody getting into the hospitality industry?
Ooh, that's a great question. I don't know if it could be summed up in one word. I guess if I have to, I would say perseverance. If I were to have to use one word in this industry, it's perseverance.
Hmm, I love that. I love that. And it's it's it, again, I encourage our listeners. You guys gotta check out Jason. It's not just the way you respond. You're always very helpful in what you do. And I know, I know. There's probably 25,000 of you guys listening today on this, where when you take out that little thing in front of it, what Jason does, and you put in your thing, you will realize the answers he gave today are very universal. And for me, that's just absolutely amazing. So, Jason, thanks for being here today. Thanks for the gift of your time. I know we had a little hard time to get this together, but I really, really appreciate what you do. And to our listeners, if you haven't gotten yet, you run to the internet. Make sure you check out Jason, check out all of his social media. You guys gonna fall in love with the same guy I did. And with that, I want to say thanks for being here today, Jason. That was awesome. I really appreciate you. And to our listeners, if you haven't done so, make sure you run, check out Jason, and then remember to disrupt your kitchen, fire up your career, stay hungry for change. I'm Christian. I'm here with Jason Kho. We are out of here. We are signing off. So be the change, be the challenge, and be the chef who sets the world on fire. Jason, thank you. And to our listeners, make sure go out, be disruptive, everybody. Thanks for being here today.